Last week, the Gators lost tight end coach William Peagler. I'm talking with Dave Waters of Gator Breakdown to talk about whether or not this is a big loss and some potential names to watch out for. Dave, do you think that the loss has a big impact, a little impact, no impact on the team moving forward?
Specifically for the tight end, Florida didn't go heavy recruiting tight end in the two recruiting classes. Billy Napier brought in at least star power rise for the 23 class or for the 22 class and the 23 class. So Keon Zipperer was already on campus there, and then brought in Tony Livingston the last cycle as well, but he was reclassified for this. Hayden Hanson also a tight end, but the big name that didn't bring in through the recruiting cycle there. And then we didn't see the tight ends heavily utilized in the passing attack in the offense either. So to put so much on Peagler as far as, I think that just might have been an overall approach. I'm not sure whoever was tight end coach at Florida, it probably would have been the same approach to recruiting as far as the 22 cycle and the 23 cycle. Then Zipperer goes down on the field last year, and Florida kind of has to shift a little bit. And Jonathan Odom, I thought, did some nice things, and we saw toward the end of the year him getting more involved when Zipperer's out. So it did some transfers out of the program now. So we'll see what that means for when the Gators hit the field in spring practice this year. But no, probably Peagler not initially. I don't feel like it's that big of a loss or something that can't be replaced. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. Easily replaceable, I think. It's not like he's had this long lineage of coaching tight ends, and he's putting tight ends in the league. He just came from being a running back coach at Michigan State, and now going on to the NFL as well, I believe, on the defensive side. So it's not like he's this hard-nosed, can't-miss tight end coach. I think it's pretty replaceable there for Florida.
Okay, so speaking of replacements, are there any names that you feel like are going to be a good replacement for him?
This one's kind of hard to nail down as far as maybe some candidates. I think I'll probably go somebody they already have on staff who recently came on staff, and that's Eric Kiesau. They brought him over from Auburn. He was part of the Auburn staff last year, 50 years old, and he was the offensive coordinator. It's very interesting how his last couple of years have played out there. He came to Auburn when he was previously the offensive coordinator for Boise State the last 2 years, but Harsin didn't make him the OC when they moved to Auburn. Mike Bobo was the first offensive coordinator when Harsin came to Auburn, and then they had another replacement. He only lasted 6 weeks, didn't even make it to last season. So then basically the third time Harsin was able to make a choice for offensive coordinator, then he chose Kiesau, and then we saw how all that went last year at Auburn. It didn't go too pretty there for Harsin on the Plains. So he comes in as an analyst for this Florida staff for Billy Napier, and probably from what I can gather is really probably maybe one of the lead candidates or the lead candidate to probably fill in for Peagler here to take over for the tight end role. So that's about even really the only name I'm hearing. I'm sure, over this past weekend, whether, they've kept it, they haven't really announced even Armstrong as the defensive coordinator, even though he's going to be the defensive coordinator coming up here for the Gators. So Eric Kiesau is probably the name I'd really look out for here. And yeah, as I said, kind of behind the scenes, I haven't really heard a whole lot of candidates for this opening that the Gators have.
So this was a thought that I had last week when I saw this. I feel like it's a potential opening to get somebody that also has maybe some special teams experience, which is something that I feel like Florida really could have used some help in last year. Is there anybody in mind with that little detail to, as a maybe a footnote on their resume?
Not right offhand, at least with the special teams roles to go. And that is it does make sense for Florida to do that. I mean, there were times last year where it was embarrassing the way Florida special teams played. You'd love for maybe some kind of realignment for how the staff handles that, and maybe a dedicated special teams coach, or as you said, a dedicated special teams coach / a tight end coach. But from everything I can gather, we're a few days away from spring practice happening. It looks like it's going to be the same approach there for Florida, where they share the roles of a special team coach there. They have the game changer coordinator, but he's not that on game day. He's not a game day special teams coach. So it looks like all the special teams are kind of taking place in preparation during the week for Florida. And it kind of slips my mind how they handle it on game day. But you would love, I think, for that to be an approach for Florida. If it's not Keesall, maybe it is somebody who does have a special teams background who can kind of slide into that role as well.
So you mentioned the spring game, and this does happen just a couple weeks before spring starts. Are there any thoughts on the time frame potentially of the hire, and does it concern you that it's that close to spring?
It does in a way. I would assume, I'm going to say a safe assumption, they have the hires by spring practice. So
Right.
you would, you would hope that is the way the timeline works here. So yeah, that's why I don't think it will take too long. I think it should be pretty early in the week where we hear where Florida maybe either finalizing the deal or the names have been announced for Florida to have their replacements. I mean, as I said, Austin Armstrong, he finally does have a Twitter profile with a Gator logo on it. So that's probably about as official as we're going to get as the time
Right.
you and I are recording right now. But no announcement from the university or Billy Napier welcoming Austin Armstrong there. But yeah, we're still waiting on a wide receiver coach and a tight end coach there from Florida. And I would not expect it to take too long with spring practice. I think that is going to speed it up. Hopefully that doesn't mean he has to settle for somebody just to go get a coach, just to have somebody there for spring practice. So hopefully, if even if he doesn't get his first choice, hopefully there's a short list Billy Napier has of who he wants to fill these roles, and whoever he gets is on that short list.
So this is really our first experience with Napier kind of replacing guys. Obviously, we saw him hire his initial staff, but how does it differ from the previous coaches that you've covered? Do you think that this has less fanfare, that he works quieter than some of the other coaches, or do you think this is a similar process that we've seen in the past?
I think it's a little quieter, but also because I was told, and I know it's come out too, that he was not surprised by the Patrick Toney move, and and if you were kind of around the back burner part of it too, Toney had interest in the Baylor defensive coordinator opening spot as well. So maybe it seemed like whether Gainesville wasn't a good fit, or that seems to be the narrative that's been thrown out there, behind the scenes personally, and maybe on the field as well, that Gainesville just wasn't maybe the right fit for Toney and his wife and the family experience that they've had just the one season in Gainesville. So, but even then, even if that was the case, and Napier not being surprised by the Toney move and that info about the Baylor interest, it didn't come out. Like it came out right away. Hey, Patrick Toney's going to the NFL. Hey, oh, by the way, here's his replacement already as well. So, Billy Napier really working behind the scenes of, all right, we have somebody leaving. I'm going to go ahead and get the next guy in line too. And it's not really working out the same way for wide receiver coach and tight end, but for the most important role coming up, he did have his DC ready to go. So yeah, and it was really quiet.
Hey guys, thanks for watching our breakdown of the tight end position opening. If you enjoyed it, we have a similar video coming tomorrow morning where we take a look at the wide receiver position opening and explore some interesting names for the job. So make sure you are subscribed right here so that you don't miss it. If you haven't seen our video on Corey Raymond taking over the entire secondary, click here.